Jehovah Satan, take 2. Mark action. Hello again, and welcome back to another exciting episode. I am your host, Dio's Shadow, the Lux Proxy. That's a reference from the show Ergo Proxy, and if you've seen that show, congratulations, you're one of the coolest people on earth. Jehovah Satan, Luciferic Christianity, Christos Lucifer, cold fire. These words, when used together, might seem like an oxymoron. It might seem contradictory. Doesn't make sense. But when you're studying the fundamentals of the Hyperborean wisdom, that's not the case. Today, we're going to be talking about Jehovah Satan. What is he? Who is he? What's he do? What's that mean? Jehovah Satan? Aren't those two different things? No, they're not. Who is he? This is page 29 of the Fundamentals. Here, it is necessary to imagine a primordial demiurge, to which we can comfortably denominate the One, just as the Stoics did. This is who orders chaos and pantheistically diffuses himself throughout the universe. He is also the Hindu Brahma, or the Arabian Allah, etc. These denominations taken in their exoteric religious sense. Simple answer. Jehovah Satan is the creator God. He's gone by many names over the millennia, but Jehovah is his most recent. What are the motivations of this creator? What are his tendencies? What are his cravings? What does he want? Why? Let's go to page 856. I've spoken before about how this reality tends to imitate truth. It's a forgery. It's a perversion of the truth. It copies over and over and over again, repeats itself. It takes the truth and gives you an inverted copy. Again, in the Fundamentals. At first, Christianity used this word with good sense in order to designate the Holy Spirit or divine mediator, a concept that is quite close to that of the Hyperborean wisdom, the will of the incognizable to liberate the spirit. But after the unholy alliance between the Roman emperors and the Church, after the Council of Nicaea and those following, a divine trinity was invented, and the Paraclete was incorporated into the aspects of Jehovah Satan, definitively poisoning its original meaning. This was a perversion of the Holy Spirit. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It's a perversion of the Trinity. The Holy Spirit is the will of the incognizable to liberate the Spirit. A little bit further, on page 887. For the Hyperborean wisdom, the incorporation of Shiva, together with Vishnu, to the Demiurge Brahma is equivalent to the union of Christ with the Demiurge Jehovah Satan and the Holy Spirit. Both trinities are exoteric, proper to religious cults, and therefore historically late. Before the confirmation of the myth, the gods were acting separately, and we have already explained how the Demiurge imitated, with Jesus Christ, the historical Atlantean figure of Christos Lucifer. Shiva, like Christos or Apollo, has been from the beginning the image of Lucifer, the great chief of the Hyperborean Siddhas, and only the imitative passion of the Demiurge and the imagination of the priests could conceive of a Trinitarian association. There is great irony in all this, since Lucifer represents absolute individuality, that is, absolute freedom, and could hardly be associated with the Lord of Slavery, the one who prevents all freedom. What else does Jehovah Satan tend towards? What does he like? Pain, suffering, blood sacrifice. Have you read the Old Testament? It's everywhere. Everywhere in the Old Testament. Blood sacrifice. Let's go to page 954 in the Fundamentals. One thing that the Creator likes is punishment. He likes to put you down, tell you you've done wrong, and punish you. Punishes you for not elevating Him as the God. Here is the first crime. To remember the divine origin will be, from now on, a terrible sin, and those who have committed it will have to pay for it. That is the will of the Demiurge, the law of Jehovah Satan. They will be his ministers, the demons of Chang Shambhala, those who will be in charge of executing the sentence, collecting the punishment in a currency that is called pain and suffering. The instrument will be, naturally, incarnation, repeated 1,000 times in transmigrations, controlled by the law of karma, cynically declaring that pain and suffering are for the good of the spirits, in order to favor their evolution. And on page 961, this talks about Cain and Abel. The legend tells that Jehovah Satan was pleased with blood offerings of Abel the shepherd, consisting of the sacrifice of the firstborn lambs with their fat. In contrast, he disdained the fruits of the earth that Cain was exhibiting, whom he finally condemned to bear a mark, a sign that would give away his murderer status. And there's a subnote that I found particularly interesting as well. At the bottom of page 961, it says, in evaluating blood offerings, one must never confuse the figure of the shepherd with that of the hunter. The shepherd is the one who slits the throat of a previously tamed victim. The hunter, on the other hand, like the warrior, obtains his prey after fighting with it and defeating it. So in a way, the shepherd deceives his prey, whereas the hunter fights it bravely, depending on what you're hunting. He conquers it. He's a warrior, as opposed to a fearful manipulator. Pain, suffering, slavery, blood sacrifice. Let's go now to the secret history This is page 34. This is in reference to the South American god of the Aztecs, I believe, Huitzilopochtli. This god is a primitive form of Jehovah Satan, that is to say, of the Demiurge, and under his bloody aspect of Huitzilopochtli, hummingbird magician, he was demanding human sacrifices. Then later on it says, his insatiable thirst for human blood was leading the Aztecs to immolate 15,000 to 20,000 men per year. Blood sacrifice. A thirst for blood. That is one of the tendencies of Jehovah Satan. Now, what are the influences and effects of Jehovah Satan's influence that we can see in the world today? One obvious answer is what Nimrod de Rosario, Felipe Moyano, describes as the term the synarchy, or world government. Synarchy comes from the Latin syn, like synthesis, combination, one, syn, one, archy, like anarchy is without government, archy, government, synarchy, one government, or as Alex Jones would say, the globalists. This is on page 256 of the Fundamentals. This is describing the synarchic vision. The synarchic vision means continuing in the causal order, subject to the law of evolution and the guidelines of material progress on which Western civilization is based. It means the ever greater immersion of the individual in the collective, marching history toward a mechanically complex future society in which man will disappear as such in a metaphysical atrophy of his ego, an indispensable objective to fulfill the end of the synarchic vision, which is the world government. Enough said there. That can be seen by anyone with eyes to see. What else? What else can we see in the world today that reflects the influence of Jehovah Satan? Well, what do all the synarchic schools talk about? Materialism. Even Rudolf Steiner would agree with that. Ahrimanic influence, materialism. Consumerism is materialism. The chase for more stuff. I've got to have more stuff. I've got to hoard stuff. Like the boomers, hoarding every single possession that they have until they die. Where's all that stuff gonna go when they die? Consumerism is Satanism. This is from page 520 in The Secret History. Again, of the synarchic vision. Think of this synarchic vision of the despiritualized man, converted into a consumer subject, into a mass man, psychologically programmed to respond to the messages of advertising or to the egregores that theosophist occultism dictates, and you will have an idea of what Satanism is. Think also of the Hyperborean vision of man, free and one in the search for the self and God, but charismatically united with his race in the mystery of the blood and immortality, and you will have an idea of what Luciferic Christianity is. Consumerism is Satanism, the culture of the West. Christos, Lucifer. How is Lucifer different? Many people would conflate Lucifer and Satan together. That is intentional. That's an intentional association. That's an intentional deception. I'm going to conclude this video with a game of microcosm and macrocosm. Microcosm. We keep waking up and then going back to sleep every day. Wake up, go back to sleep. Microcosm. We keep remembering and then forgetting. You remember something and you forget it. You remember something else. You want to remember something else and then you forget it. Something you forget. You try to remember, you remember it, and you forget it again. Macrocosm. We keep reincarnating and then dying. We keep waking up conscious and then dying again, and then reincarnating, forgetting everything, and fighting to remember before we die again. We have 80 years to remember, and that's it. And if we can't remember in that time, we have to do it all over again. Lucifer is the awakening, the memory recovered, the song that gives you a vague nostalgia for the innocence of your childhood. Satan wants you to go back to sleep. He wants to forget. He wants you to forget that you're powerful. He wants you to submit, humble yourself before him, and do his bidding. Lucifer wants you to stay awake. He wants you to remember that you are all-powerful, an eternal spirit, not of the illusory creation, but uncreated in the world. Lucifer is the return to the origin. Thank you once again for joining me, and stay tuned.